What if I told you that across history, entire communities didn't just believe in monsters, they blamed them for real deaths, real sickness, and real disasters? These weren't campfire stories. Graves were dug up, neighbors were accused, families were isolated. People changed how they slept, how they traveled, and how they treated each other, because they were convinced these beings were actively harming their world. Today, we're counting down 10 beings that were treated as true public enemies. In pre-Islamic Arabian folklore, the ghoul was one of the most hated beings people could imagine. It was believed to haunt deserts, graveyards, and empty roads, the very places people feared most. The ghoul was said to dig up fresh graves to eat the dead, or disguise itself as a person to trick travelers into following it into the wilderness. In a culture where proper burial was sacred and the desert was already deadly, this creature represented a double horror: disrespect for the dead and danger to the living. People didn't see the ghoul as a distant legend. It was blamed when graves were found disturbed, when bodies were missing, or when someone vanished during a journey. Instead of assuming animals or harsh conditions were responsible, many believed a ghoul had done it. Because it was thought to shapeshift and deceive, the ghoul became a symbol of treachery, something that could look human but lead you to your death. This made the ghoul a true public enemy in the imagination of the time. Its stories warned people not to travel alone, not to trust strangers in lonely places, and to protect burial sites carefully. But in the far north, people feared something even worse: not a creature that attacked the living from the outside, but a corpse that rose from its own grave to harm the people it once knew. In Old Norse tradition, the Draug was not a distant monster. It was a dead person who refused to stay dead. These undead figures were believed to rise from their burial mounds and return to the farms and lands they once owned. Unlike later zombies, a Draug was described as solid, powerful, and willful. It could walk, break doors, crush the living with its strength, and even change its size. People believed it left its grave at night to wander the area it once ruled in life. The Draug was blamed for very real problems in rural communities. When livestock were found dead, when sickness spread through a household, or when strange disturbances happened near a burial mound, the Draug was often named as the cause. These beings were thought to be driven by greed, jealousy, or anger, especially if they had been possessive of their wealth while alive. They did not simply haunt, they actively harmed the living and the prosperity of the farm. Because of this, the Draug became a true public enemy in Norse belief. Sagas describe people reopening graves, cutting off heads, or burning bodies to stop a Draug's influence. This was not just storytelling. It reflects a belief strong enough that people felt the need to physically deal with the dead to protect the living. The Draug represented a terrifying idea that even death was not enough to stop a hateful person from hurting their community. But on a remote island far to the north, people feared something even worse: a creature from the sea whose very breath could ruin crops and make animals fall sick. In the folklore of Scotland's Orkney Islands, few beings were as dreaded as the Nukkalavi. Descriptions portray it as a terrifying horse-like creature fused with a human torso, often said to have no skin, with raw flesh exposed and a foul breath that carried sickness. It was believed to rise from the sea and roam the land at night. In an isolated island community surrounded by harsh weather and limited resources, this creature became the face of everything that could suddenly go wrong. The Nukkalavi was blamed when crops failed, when livestock fell ill, and when disease spread through the community. People believed its breath alone could wither plants and poison animals. When an epidemic struck or fields began to rot, the cause was not random misfortune, it was this being moving across the land. For people whose survival depended entirely on farming and animals, this made the Nukkalavi a direct enemy of daily life. Because of this, it was deeply feared as a true public threat, not just a story told for entertainment. It explained famine, sickness, and disaster in a place where losing a harvest could mean starvation. The creature gave a supernatural reason for hardships that felt sudden and uncontrollable. But in the deep forests across the ocean, another terror took shape. Not a monster from outside, but the fear that a human being could slowly become something far worse. If you like this video, consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always unsubscribe later. Now, on to the next one. In Algonquian traditions of North America, the Wendigo was not just a monster in the woods, it was a warning about what could happen to a person during extreme winter starvation. Described as gaunt, frozen, and driven by an endless hunger for human flesh, the Wendigo was tied directly to the fear of cannibalism during famine. In lands where winters were long and food could run out, this being represented the moment when survival instincts could push someone past the limits of humanity. People believed a person could become a Wendigo if they resorted to cannibalism or allowed greed and desperation to take over. This made the Wendigo more than an outside threat. It was the fear of moral collapse within the community. When someone behaved strangely during harsh winters, when paranoia or violence appeared, the idea of the Wendigo offered an explanation. It reinforced strict taboos against cannibalism and selfishness when cooperation was needed most. Because of this, the Wendigo became a true public enemy in belief, not a creature to hunt, but a condition to prevent. It shaped behavior during famine, reminding people that surviving the winter was not just about food, but about holding on to their humanity. But in a modern island community far from the snow and forests, another terror would spark panic so intense that entire neighborhoods changed how they slept at night. On the islands of Zanzibar and Pemba, fear of the Popobawa sparked some of the most well-documented supernatural panics of the modern era. Waves of reports in 1965, the 1970s, and especially 1995 described a winged, bat-like spirit that attacked people at night, often inside their homes. Unlike distant folklore, this fear unfolded in living memory, covered by newspapers and witnessed by entire communities. People did not treat it as a story. Families slept outdoors in groups, kept lights on through the night, and stayed awake together for safety. Some believed the attacks targeted those who denied the spirit's existence, so reports spread quickly from village to village. The Popobawa became the named cause of unexplained nighttime terror, turning ordinary houses into places people no longer trusted after dark. In this way, the Popobawa functioned as a true public enemy in modern times. It changed daily behavior, created community panic, and gave a supernatural explanation for frightening experiences people felt were real. The fear was strong enough to reshape how entire neighborhoods lived for weeks at a time. But in another culture, the threat was not a night visitor from outside. It was the belief that an unseen spirit could enter a person and bring shame and misfortune to an entire family. In parts of Japan, especially during the Edo period, one of the most feared conditions was kitsunetsuki, or fox possession. People believed that a fox spirit could enter a person's body and cause strange behavior, illness, or sudden madness. This was not treated as a simple superstition. It was a serious social label that could follow a person and their family for years. When someone acted unpredictably, spoke oddly, or showed signs of mental distress, fox possession was often named as the cause. But the fear did not stop with the individual. Entire households could be accused of being connected to fox spirits, believed to keep or attract them. These families were sometimes avoided, mistrusted, and socially isolated within their communities, as others feared being affected or associated with the condition. Because of this, kitsunetsuki became a kind of public enemy in social life. It explained behavior people did not understand and created real, lasting consequences for those accused. The fear was not of a creature seen in the woods, but of an unseen force that could live inside a person and quietly damage a family's place in society. But in another island culture, the threat people feared was far more physical, a being believed to leave its body at night and prey on the most vulnerable members of the community. In many parts of the Philippines, especially in Visayan folklore, the manananggal is one of the most feared mythical beings. People believed this being could separate its upper body at night, grow wings, and fly in search of pregnant women. It was said to use a long, thin tongue to feed on unborn children, making it a direct threat to mothers and infants. In communities where pregnancy and childbirth were already dangerous, this creature became the supernatural face of those fears. Miscarriages, difficult pregnancies, and unexplained infant deaths were often blamed on the manananggal. These tragedies were not seen as random or medical. They were believed to be caused by a being actively hunting in the night. Because of this, suspicion could fall on real people. Those who were rumored to be the manananggal were often feared, avoided, and socially isolated, as neighbors worried they might be living beside a hidden predator. This made the manananggal a true public enemy in local belief. It was not just a story to frighten children, but an explanation for some of the most painful events a family could experience. The fear shaped how people viewed illness, pregnancy, and even their own neighbors. Long before this, in one of the world's earliest civilizations, parents carried protective charms against a female spirit blamed for the very same tragedies. In ancient Mesopotamia, one of the most feared beings was Lamashtu, a female demon believed to prey on mothers and infants. She was not a distant legend, but a named threat people thought could enter homes, harm pregnant women, and kill newborn children. In a world where childbirth was dangerous and infant mortality was common, Lamashtu became the supernatural explanation for tragedies families experienced too often. This fear is preserved in archaeology. Clay plaques, amulets, and incantation texts were made specifically to protect against her. Mothers wore protective charms, and households used written spells calling on other deities to drive Lamashtu away. These objects have been found across Mesopotamia, showing that protection from her was part of daily life for centuries. Because of this, Lamashtu functioned as a true public enemy in ancient belief. She was the named cause behind miscarriages and infant deaths, and people took constant practical steps to defend themselves from her influence. The fear was strong enough to shape rituals, household practices, and protective traditions across generations. Many centuries later, in parts of Europe, people would once again blame unseen night visitors for sickness and death, and this time they would dig up graves to stop them. In parts of the Balkans during the 17th and 18th centuries, fear of the strigoi, often translated today as vampires, was not just folklore, but a matter taken seriously by entire communities. People believed these beings were dead individuals who returned from the grave to drain the life from the living. When unexplained illness spread through a village, or when several people began to waste away, the cause was often named as a strigoi rising at night to feed on its former neighbors. This belief led to real, documented actions. Villagers, sometimes with the approval of local officials, exhumed bodies suspected of being strigoi. Corpses were inspected for signs that they had not properly decayed, then staked, decapitated, or burned to stop their supposed attacks. These events were recorded in reports and letters from the time, showing that people truly believed the dead were responsible for sickness and death among the living. Because of this, the strigoi became a true public enemy in the region's belief system. It was blamed for plagues, wasting disease, and the sudden decline of healthy people. The fear was so strong that disturbing the grave, normally unthinkable, became seen as necessary to protect the community. Elsewhere in Europe, the blame for illness and misfortune would fall not on the dead, but on the living people accused of using dark powers. In early modern Europe, the fear of the malefic witch turned neighbors into suspects and villages into places of suspicion. People believed certain individuals could secretly harm others through supernatural means, especially at night. When illness spread, crops failed, animals died, or infants passed away unexpectedly, the cause was often blamed on a witch living within the community. This was not a distant legend, it was a fear directed at real people. These beliefs led to one of the largest waves of accusations and trials in European history. From the 15th to the 17th centuries, thousands were imprisoned, interrogated, and executed after being accused of causing harm through witchcraft. Courts accepted testimony that witches could curse families, ruin harvests, and bring sickness simply through hidden malice. Entire communities sometimes turned against a single person they believed was responsible for their misfortune. Because of this, the witch became a true public enemy in the minds of the people. The fear was so strong that normal disagreements, strange behavior, or bad luck could be enough to start an accusation. This belief shaped laws, trials, and social life across Europe for generations.